Mike Asti, Joe Smeltzer, WV Sports Now, Nittany Sports Now. The Penn State Nittany Lions defeat the West Virginia Mountaineers in the 2024 kickoff game here at McMillan Pushcart Stadium. National stage, Fox's Big Noon kickoff was here. Pageantry all week long in Morgantown with Pat McAfee's show and all that. And the Mountaineers did not live up to the hype, to say the very least, 34-12, as Penn State is victorious. So, Joe, what led Penn State to victory in this game? It was a little back and forth early on. The Mountaineers squandered some opportunities and maybe a turnover that could have meant something that they didn't get last year. We talked about that a lot in the pregame show. But then Penn State just eventually exposed West Virginia as Penn State clearly being the better team.
For sure, Mike, and I don't really know how much I usually think about a single turning point in a game where one team was just clearly better, like today's game was. But if I had to pick one, it would be that first quarter turnover exchange where Penn State drew our snap miscommunication, whatever it was, they fumble, and then WVU goes on the ball, crowd's going crazy. They fumble too, very first play. So before Penn State,
right after it too, like you didn't even get a chance to breathe and say, okay, momentum's on West Virginia's side.
Yeah, and Penn State doesn't have time to think like, okay, we hate turning it over. We preach ball security. We're in the right environment. Like maybe this is what starts a bad day for us. But Penn State just gets a turnover right after that. And even though they didn't cash in on that first drive, and it took the offense a little bit, I would say, to get going. I would say that from that moment, I didn't really sense an upset after that.
Yeah, it did feel like the vibe just wasn't there after that because West Virginia just did not take advantage. It was almost more important the Mountaineers took advantage regardless of what Penn State did. And obviously turning it back over right to the next play is the exact opposite of doing that. And another moment, Cole Taylor didn't come up with what could have been a long reception. He did get one later, but that could have been a long drive for the Mountaineers. It took them so long to get a long drive going, even with the field goals. They do go for it. I actually will say to West Virginia fans, I did kind of like the early aggressiveness of Neil Brown. He was heavily criticized in the past, namely the backcourt brawl. I'm sure you're aware of in 2022. Pitt fans, West Virginia fans all pointed to that moment. He didn't go for it. He was too cautious. He was a little different Brown. He was aggressive. He was willing to go for it a couple times early in this game. But if you don't convert, what does it matter? So they weren't able to really get enough momentum going here early in the game, and then it just again unraveled from there. Smeltzer, Mike Asti here as we're recapping West Virginia's loss to Penn State and Penn State's victory in Week 1 of the 2024 season. The Mountaineer offense never really got going. Maybe in the fourth quarter, but it never really got going, and it just was out of sorts. Brown talked about they didn't look like they did in practice. This veteran group, it shouldn't be like that. So that's kind of obvious as that takeaway. From the Penn State side, what do you think caused the Nittany Lion offense to kind of have a slow start in this game? Because we also both thought they maybe would go deep early. They would try to be aggressive early. That didn't really happen. They kind of eased into the game, and it almost cost them. Maybe against the better opponent, they could have been down early.
Yeah, I think the slow start, Drew Aller didn't really look too in sync. There were some passes that he should have made and didn't, but obviously the fumble, whether that was on Nick Dawkins or miscommunication, whatever that was, that definitely caused a problem. But I think once the quarterback got going, that really kind of everything kind of snowballed after that because you had the pass plays, you had the second half after the delay, Nicholas Singleton running for a 40-yard touchdown, which really was, I think, the death nail for West Virginia.
That was a backbreaker because they were always moving the ball, but then once he broke out, it felt like it was over then. Yeah.
And obviously with this offense, after one game, it might not be 100%. We might not be 100% safe saying that Penn State has a bona fide number one receiver, but Harrison Wallace III definitely played like one today. And if that's the Harrison Wallace Penn State's going to get for the rest of the season, look out, because that really solves to a great degree what was Penn State's biggest problem last season.
Yeah, and it's obvious that's the one position that Penn State has not had an elite player at really in a while. They don't have that Marvin Harrison Jr., which is why some feel they didn't get to that national championship level, even though they're still a step above West Virginia clearly now with yet another win over the Mountaineers. Now you cover Penn State. I'll give you West Virginia's after you go here, but what's something that you learned about the Nittany Lions in this game? They did win. They did win comfortably. The score is similar to last year, but they didn't play as well early in the game. Their expectations are to finally beat Ohio State, to get in the playoff. They haven't been in, but now there's a 12-team playoff, etc. Do you feel like it's an optimistic view on the Nittany Lions, or are there still things to say, okay, West Virginia was just so bad in this game, maybe they weren't ready for it. If you were playing Ohio State, this might have went differently, and there's still things to improve upon for the Nittany Lions. What do you take away from it?
Yeah, I think my big takeaway is this Andy Kittle-Nicky's offense. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I know fun doesn't always win football games, but that's an important component of really the whole vibe around this team, because last season, even when Penn State was winning and winning big in most cases, it didn't really feel like an exciting offense to watch. It felt like, a lot of conservative play calling, a lot of dink and dunk passes, a lot of running the football, which is fine, but it didn't really electrify the fan base. I think this offense with Andy Kittle-Nicky, we didn't really know what we'd see week one. We thought maybe there'd be a lot of problems the whole first half, or whatever problems there were figured out early, and we saw a lot more of Bo Quibula than we saw, I think, at any point last season. We saw Harrison Wallace go off. We saw great play designs, which led to explosive plays. That 50-yard touchdown pass from Adler to Harrison Wallace, that wasn't, a throw it deep situation. That was just a cleverly designed play that ended up going for a big gain. And Kittle-Nicky said earlier, I think this was during fall camp, that just explosive plays don't necessarily mean just throwing the bomb and seeing what happens. It's a lot of play designs, and play designs that are well thought out and well executed. Those could go for big plays as well. And I think that 50-yard touchdown is probably the one play that sticks out to me, because that was just a great job by the quarterback, receiver, and offensive coordinator kind of working in harmony.
And it's a different Penn State offense this year, a little different. It can mirror kind of what Kansas did a little bit, and that makes sense, but maybe more of a dimension that also can help Penn State be more exciting and get to that next level. And from the West Virginia perspective, obviously, the wide receivers heavily disappointed in this game. Multiple big conference transfers, key drops in this game didn't help Green, but Garrett Green did not look nearly good enough to be a Big 12 championship quarterback, to even get close to what PFF's been saying about his grades and his future potential at the NFL. Certainly didn't look like an NFL quarterback. A lot more is needed from Garrett Green. And talking about decision-making, knowing when to scramble, I thought there were plays that he actually could have scrambled, used his legs. He's still a dual threat, even though he needs to obviously be better through the air and be more accurate. That was a big theme of the offseason. But it was kind of the bad of Garrett Green, where there were some yards, there were some attempts at big plays, but they missed them. He didn't scramble enough. He really wasn't a threat as a dual threat, and the accuracy wasn't there. Again, the miscues, even with the snaps, he put that on himself, said that was him, that wasn't Brandon Yates. So they missed Frazier, but maybe not from those snaps. Maybe that was a Garrett Green issue. Garrett Green, number one. They need a lot of things to be better. A lot of things were exposed in this game. But Garrett Green, number one, needs to be way better for this team to vie for anything in the Big 12. Even if those teams maybe arguably aren't on Penn State's level, they still have the whole season in front of them. It is true with the new CFP rules. You win the Big 12, you're in. Doesn't matter out of conference play. They still probably will be favored against Pitt in the backyard brawl, despite it being on the road. But none of that matters if this is the Garrett Green. And it is disappointing with all the hype going into this game that the veteran players, as Neil Brown put it, disappointed him the most, because the veteran players weren't at the top of their game. Even Cole Taylor early in this game. I think a big thing for Penn State that we talked about in the preview show, you didn't really have to worry about Jaheim White, who didn't play last year, because he kind of got banged up early, got a 12-yard run on his first touch, and then didn't get to see much from him. C.D. Donaldson was good, but a lot of things need fixed for the Mountaineers. I'll write about it more on WV Sports now. Instant reaction, a lot needs changed, a lot needs fixed. The sky is not fully falling based on the current rules, and it's very possible, like last year, they didn't look great against Penn State, but they ended up winning 9 games in a bowl. It could happen again. But the expectations on this team are to do even more, and that's not what you saw on the field here behind us for West Virginia against Penn State. So that'll do it for our instant reaction game recap. Find more of the Penn State coverage at Nittany Sports Now with Joe Smeltzer, and more of the West Virginia coverage for the Mountaineers at WV Sports Now. Penn State goes 1-0, the Mountaineers 0-1. And stay tuned for more of what these two teams do through the rest of their seasons.